Welcome to another Divine You podcast with yours truly, A.G. Green Sing. This is your gateway to uncovering the infinite power within, prepared to evolve, transform, and ascend. Make sure that you share this broadcast with as many people as you possibly can. Share this podcast. I believe that I say some things here that will really empower people and provide clarity and context. Also, connect with me on social media for more powerful content on what you hear me discuss today and more. Follow me at AG Green Now. That's at AGGREENNOW. That's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, you can visit me on my online hub at theaggreen.com. That's theaggreen.com. Just showed up on the screen in the scrolling ticker at the bottom. Visit me. Stay connected with the latest happenings, so forth and so on. And of course, want to buy some shirts like this one, the I Am Powerful shirt, so forth and so on. Visit me at divinespeciesshop.com. That's divinespeciesshop.com. Again, so excited and delighted to be with you who have tuned in on today. I've got some wonderful things I'm going to discuss with you. I hope all is well with you. And I want to first thank those who have been supporting the podcast. The download numbers are going up by audio and video. And of course, you can watch this video on the Divine You podcast channel. Just type in the Divine You podcast channel or visit theaggreen.com and you can scroll down. I don't remember what page it's on, but the actual page, YouTube page, and it's a very new YouTube site. We want you to go there, find the video, watch it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with more people. We've got some wonderful things that we are preparing for you. All right. I want to get into the subject matter on today. Something I think that's going to be very beneficial for us to discuss. And so I want you just to prepare your mind and prepare your heart for what I'm about to share with you today. I'm going to, again, begin a two-part series. I say again because I like to speak in series, typically one time, really most of the time, even a two-part series. It's just, in my opinion, not enough time or not lengthy enough to be able to, in an efficient, didactic way, communicate and elocute a well-rounded or provide a well-rounded presentation. But nevertheless, we'll do the best we can. And I always like to revisit subjects in future tense because repetition to me is the hallmark of good teaching, as well as necessary in terms of learning. Mastering thoughts and habits. Basically, this is a presentation I did some time ago, but the actual name of the series is going to be entitled You Are Your Habits. You Are Your Habits. That's the actual name of the series. You Are Your Habits. Now, I want to provide a disclaimer up front because there's kind of, I don't want you to think I'm being duplicitous. I don't want you to think I'm being, I guess I could say ambivalent. I don't want you to think that I'm being double-minded. And the disclaimer is basically to say to you, yes, there is a part of you as a spirit being, a part of you who is spirit, who is pure consciousness, who exists in a state of perfection. I believe outside of this physical three-dimensional body that is perfect, that is flawless, pure consciousness. And this is kind of, well, it's not really new terminology, but it's emerging as a more popular terminology, talking about spirituality and metaphysics these days. Pure consciousness, from where I come from, is connected to God, connected to the divine, connected to the source. And some of you all, you should go to theaggreen.com and kind of get a background on who I am. I was a pastor in a traditional church for over 25 years. I have multiple academic accomplishments from the bachelor's level to the doctorate level in theological disciplines, as well as just years and years and years of self-study. To me, the degrees don't make you, you make the degrees. A man that I admire and respect above many others, never entered or matriculated into a college, but was self-educated in prison. And then after he exited prison, he continued his educational journey. And of course, his meteoric rise is one of the most eloquent, dynamic, and sincere leaders of any generation. El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, known as Malcolm X, was a self-educated brother. And so I don't harp on those things because I believe my self-education, along with those disciplines, really are what makes the person or what would make me. But I'm saying that as a pure spirit, and a lot of times in religious circles, we say people have a bad spirit and so forth and so on. I don't believe in bad spirits in terms of the individual. If you are purely spirit, you're untouched and unblemished by the flesh. You're unaffected by the physical existence. You are transcendent. You exist above that. I do believe the part of us, though, that is defined by habits or habits define it, of course, is the persona, the mind, will, and emotions. Some call it the ego or the egoic part of our existence. Yes, I absolutely, positively do believe that that part of us is most definitely our habits. And I'll break that down for you in just a few minutes. Dr. Archibald D. Hart said, a healthy mind does not exist by accident, nor is it passed on to us through our genes, end quote. A healthy mind. So in order for us to continue our discussion about habits, we must first discuss thoughts. We must first discuss thoughts. And if you're taking notes, I want you to understand or begin to write down that there is a direct correlation and connection between thoughts and habits. What are thoughts? Thoughts are the product of mental activity, that which one thinks. The product of mental activity, that which one thinks. We are what I call a sentient species, and therefore we are a thinking, reasoning species, whether we use the power of inductive or deductive reason. We reason and we know or have an awareness of consciousness, I should say, through thinking. That's a subject all of its own in terms of what exactly is consciousness defined to be, but we know that the intellectual component is a part of consciousness. Dr. James Allen, or I should say James Allen, a great speaker, preacher, I think he was in the 19th century. He wrote a book, As a Man Thinketh. He says, all that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts, end quote. Proverbs 23:7a says it like this, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Thinking is translated from a Hebrew word estimates, or is defined, I should say, from a Hebrew word to mean estimates. So as we estimate, as we calculate, as we have mental activity, uh, intellectual awareness, inductive and deductive reasoning, we are a result of those thoughts. The reality that we live is a sum total of those thoughts. Thoughts determine behavior, which is what we do. Everybody right now who's doing something in terms of an action is doing it based on a thought, even if it's a subconscious thought. It is signaling the body to follow through or to commit a certain act or to participate in an action. Thoughts changes emotions. That's what we feel and are motivated to believe. So thinking, in terms of our interpretation, our thinking is interpreting, is processing, is estimating, can change our emotional state. Negative thoughts typically generate negative emotions. Positive thoughts typically generate positive emotions. Thoughts influences the immune system, which means that the studies have proven that when we are thinking negatively, when we are experiencing depression, our immune system can be compromised, or it compromises our self-defense from an immunological point of view. Thoughts forges character or shapes character. Absolutely. The character you and I possess as an individualized aspect of the creator, an individualized aspect as a speaking spirit or as a spirit, those thoughts determine what kind of character we are. And remember, beliefs are just clusters of thoughts. Beliefs are just collections of thoughts. Our beliefs are the things that define our character. And those beliefs, of course, are made up of the fundamental building blocks that we call thoughts. Thoughts also shape attitude or shapes attitudes, meaning it shapes positive and negative mindsets. So the mindset that you are in right now is determined by your thoughts. Whether you feel good about yourself, whether you feel bad about life, family, this all stems from thoughts. It's not somebody external to you who is doing this to you. It's not some God in the sky. It's not some evil, nefarious being. It is you. Thoughts form or forms spirituality, meaning that it shapes divine connections or disconnections. Paul said in one text, he said, with my mind, I serve the Lord. I just am baffled as to how much of an emphasis is placed on the spirit in religious circles, and a lack of understanding causes them to be inefficient in their presentations on the mind, on the psychological. You can't have a healthy theology without first having a healthy psychology, and vice versa. So our spiritual expressions, our spiritual understandings, our ability to allow the spirit or that which is purely consciousness, pure consciousness, connected to God, connected to everything, to uh, emanate from us, to be wielded through us, to be exercised demonstratively or effectively, is predicated on what you think about the spirit, who you believe you are, which again consists of thoughts, what you believe you're capable of doing spiritually, your identity, who and what you are capable of doing and not doing, your position, status, and role in the cosmic hierarchy, all is defined within the realm of thinking. So pure spirituality, you as a spirit, will not be fully expressed in this iteration of your lifetime unless, family, unless it goes through the gateway of thinking. So we see the powerful impact thus far that thoughts have on our existence and thoughts have on our reality. So it makes sense that thoughts form habits. You can write that down if you're taking notes. Thoughts form habits. So let's define a habit. Let's define a habit real quickly, family. A habit is an acquired behavioral pattern regularly followed until it has become almost involuntary. We do it so much until it's reflexive. We do it so much until it's like a reflex. We do it so much until it's autonomous. It's also defined as a customary practice or use. So that is the basic definition. And we want to key in and focus in on an acquired behavior pattern. An acquired behavior pattern. That word, those two words, behavior pattern, are very, very, very important. The great late Stephen Covey, who wrote a bestseller entitled Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, said this: because they are consistent, and he's talking about habits. He says, because they are consistent, often unconscious patterns, they constantly, daily express our character and produce our effectiveness or ineffectiveness, end quote. So, family habits help form how we live our lives. Habits help form how we live our lives. If you're watching me in the morning and you're a coffee drinker, guess what you probably did when you rose this morning? You participated in the pattern of personal hygiene. And then after that, you probably, showered. I don't know what your schedule is like. And then after that, you considered breakfast if you're a breakfast eater, and you probably went to the coffee pot, or you probably went to the coffee pot maker, made you a cup of coffee, and then you put the usual ingredients that satisfy your taste, whether it be cream or sugar, or you take it straight black. And then you sip from that cup of coffee, most likely from your favorite mug or your favorite container. And then from there, everything else you did again is going to be done based on the pattern of thinking, the pattern of thinking, which again is a pattern of behavior. So what we learn becomes a habit. Example again, I just gave you an example: how we eat, what we drink. All right. How we worship is a habit. Poor habits manifest a poor life. That's the bottom line. Poor habits manifest a poor life. But what I want you to understand again is that there is no action taken, there is no habit formed without it first being formed in the mind. All physical habits are ancestors of mental thinking. All physical habits are ancestors of mental thinking. In other words, the mental thinking, which is the mental pattern, creates the habit. The mental thinking, which is the mental pattern, creates the behavioral pattern, creates the physical pattern, creates the pattern of behaviors itself. There's a text in scripture, the biblical text, that is of interest to me today. It's Proverbs 21:5. The thoughts, translated as plans, of the diligent. The word diligent is defined as steady, earnest, persistent, tend only to plenteousness, which is defined to mean gain and profit. So those who are successful, those who are prosperous, watch this, have prosperous thoughts, aka prosperous plans, aka prosperous mental schematics. And we can say from modern research, and we can say from research overall, and the seven habits of highly effective people that Stephen Covey wrote several years ago, determine that wealthy, successful people are not wealthy and successful because they think wealthy and success. It's because mentally, from a mental schematic standpoint, they have certain mental patterns that might be defined as routine, mental patterns that might be defined as a schedule of behaviors, a pattern of behaviors that they participated in consistently that caused them to become successful in life. This text is true. Plans. Thoughts is translated as plans. Well, plans are very strategic. How you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, what you do after you wake up in the morning, what you participate in after you wake up in the morning. That's a part of a plan. I've been saying for years, you've got to have a mental plan. You've got to have a mental plan. If you don't have a daily mental plan, then you're going to, again, participate randomly in things that come to your mind. You're going to be living with an undisciplined mind, and you're going to manifest outcomes based from that undisciplined mindset. But you've got to be intentional. Success is intentional. I'm going to say it again. Success is intentional. And let me say another thing. Failure is also intentional. And what I mean by that is if we have thoughts, a plan that does not include strategy to succeed, then we are intentionally, willfully failing. Even recently, my higher self, my spirit self, was recalling me and motivating me again to revisit some patterns that I had abandoned that keep me disciplined in the middle and focused. It is very, very, very necessary. So the biblical text is telling us the thoughts and the plans of the diligent are those who are steady, who are earnest and persistent. Again, people who do things persistently, who keep trying persistently, who keep showing up persistently, they're doing what they're thinking. They tend only to plenteousness, gain, and profit. They are going to experience prosperity. They're going to experience abundance in whatever it is they're doing because the beginning state or the plans that lead to good habits ensure that they're going to have some kind of outcome of success. Water will successfully, family, wear down rock. The term is called erosion, even if it takes thousands of years. Why? Because it is consistently flowing over the same, what we consider to be hard, resistant surface. But because of its consistent flowing over the same hard surface, it will eventually achieve its end success in eroding or wearing down soil, sediment, and even rock. That's how powerful consistency is. The latter part of the text says, but everyone that is hasty, which means that they are hurried, which means that they are in a hurry. If we break that word down, hasty, hurried, it means they're in their mind, will and emotions, they have not planned properly. Okay. They have not prepared themselves properly. They have not done the inner work schematically. They have not done the inner work strategically. They want a get rich quick scheme, or they want something to happen quickly without, as the text would say in the New Testament, counting up the costs, being calculative, estimating properly. Okay. Before they cast their net of faith, they have not considered the possibilities. They have not considered the outcomes. And I'm weaving faith into this conversation because faith is very important. Faith leaps over facts, but you at least should know some of the facts, some of the things that you are assigning faith to leap over, to overcome. Am I making any sense? But what I want you to understand is because their thoughts have not been specifically designed with the proper patterns to ensure success, because they're in a hurry and trying to skip steps. The text ends by saying, but of everyone that is hasty or hurried only to want, which means lack or need, which means they're going to experience want. They're going to experience lack. I've been in these situations before where I didn't allow an idea to incubate thoroughly. I didn't allow an idea to grow within me first before I presented it to a larger audience. Okay. That was the King James Version that we just broke down for you. Let's look at the ESV version. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. And then the Amplified says the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance and advantage, but everyone who acts in haste comes surely to poverty. Wow. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Let me look at my time, make a few more points, and then I'm going to be done today. And I hope you're enjoying this presentation, this teaching today on habits. So our thoughts and images are states of consciousness and awareness. I'm going to say it again. Our thoughts and images are states of consciousness and awareness. I want you to understand, family, that right now, while you're listening or watching me, you are functioning in a state of consciousness. And what that means is you are thinking, you are feeling, you are processing, you are determining value of what I'm saying. You are assigning value or you are not assigning value. You are absorbing, you are not absorbing. You are believing, you are not believing, based on the state of consciousness that you're in. If you're positive, then you might likely be more open to the message and to glean from it and then turn around, apply, and execute it. If not, then you might be more resistant to it. If you're rigid and inflexible, because again, your psychological conditioning from religion or hardships in life that you've interpreted to define yourself in such a way that has hardened your heart to the possibility of change, that you might have more challenges in absorbing the information that I am releasing to you now. Again, it all is based on your state of consciousness. These states are dimensions of conscious reality from which we create from. We create from these states of conscious reality. We create from these states of being. Okay. So these states of consciousness are also equated with states of being. So if you're hopeful, you're in a state of hopefulness, and you're more likely to produce or manifest hopefulness. But if you feel helpless, if you believe you're helpless, then your state of consciousness is defined by helplessness. And you're more likely to bring things into your life that make you feel more helpless. And you're more likely to manifest situations where you are helpless. There was a habit study done in 2005, University of Pennsylvania. They analyzed 164 eighth grade students. They measured IQ, other factors, including willpower. Here are the results. Students who exerted high levels of willpower were more likely to earn higher grades in their classes and gain admission into more selective schools. They had fewer absences and spent less time watching television and more hours on homework. Why is this relevant? Self-discipline has a bigger effect on academic performance than intellect does. Wow. Did you catch what I just said? I'm going to say it again. Self-discipline has a bigger effect on academic performance than does intellectual talent. So I want you to realize the best way to strengthen willpower and give students a leg up, studies indicate ways to make it into a habit. I'm going to say that again. The best way to strengthen willpower and give students a leg up, studies indicate, was to make it into a habit. So the student might not be as intelligent as the 4.0, but they're going to yet achieve a high level and yet get into the school of their choice. You know why? That discipline means mental power. That mental power means a plan. That plan, again, is executed into a habit. And the plan is where? In our thinking. The plan is where? In the mind. They are disciplined in their mind, therefore they're disciplined in their actions. They're disciplined in their study. They're disciplined in what they do and what they don't do outside of the classroom. Charles Duhigg, who wrote the book, The Power of Habit, says, willpower is a learnable skill, end quote. Let's look at mental habits for a few minutes. What are mental habits? Mental habits are thoughts don't necessarily manifest into behavior. Mental habits, let me rephrase that. Thoughts don't necessarily manifest into behavior. Single or multiple thought patterns help shape character and emotions. So our mental habits, again, are our thinking habits that are translated into physical habits. All right. Eventually, a single or a multiple thought can form a pattern that, again, will shape us in terms of character, will shape up us in terms of emotions. This is the power of doing something repetitiously. This is the power of having a plan to do something repetitiously. You believe what you believe because you thought it repetitiously. It doesn't have anything to do with truth. It has everything to do with what you have accepted in your heart is the truth. So you allowed those thoughts, then your reticular activating system kicked in. Now it's filtering in only the stuff you believe is truth and not allowing other stuff you don't believe is truthful or helpful to you not to get past a certain point in your brain to be adopted and to be accepted. It's the same way personal laws set into our hearts or personal philosophies. You meet certain people and it may not make sense, but they got these crazy, bizarre personal philosophies. Crazy. I just think it's something strange about people. I think it's something. I'm giving you an example. I think it's just something really, really strange about people who wear purple. It's just something about purple. I just think there's a certain kind of person who wears purple, and you can't trust purple. People who wear purple outfits, wear purple this, wear purple that. That's a person of philosophy. Watch this. That didn't just wasn't activated immediately, but over time, this person has cogitated and meditated and considered their bizarre relationship with purple, or somebody who wore purple did something to them that triggered them through thought repetition over the course of years to form a person of philosophy that people who wear purple can't be trusted. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So this is an example of a mental habit that turned into a personal law, a personal philosophy that's just not really productive. You are who you think you are based on thoughts. My goodness, I'm gonna have to shut it down here, but let me say this. You are who you think you are based on thoughts. If you are a person of integrity, you believe you're a person of integrity. If you're honest, you think you're honest. If you're selfish, you think you're selfish. If you're unselfish, you think you're unselfish and you think unselfishly. If you're proud, you have proud thoughts. If you're stubborn, you have stubborn thoughts. So forth and so on. Your thinking determines being, and your thinking determines self-definition. Am I making any sense? And from this self-definition, you will act based on what you think, and you will act based on what you believe. There's a powerful quote from Charles Reed. He says, sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny. End quote. Wow, wow. Powerful, powerful, powerful things for you and I to consider on today. So, from the physical standpoint, you and from a physical standpoint, a brain standpoint, you and I are our habits. I got some good news though. There's a way that we can change any thought and any habit. And I'm going to get into some of those things that will help you change your thoughts and change your habits to align them with the new version of yourself and the new level of life that you are expecting to live. I want to end today with a power thought. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit, end quote. Will Durant. Thank y'all for tuning in today. Don't forget to share this podcast with the world. I'm A.G. Green Sr. I'll see you in part 2. This is the Divine You podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in.